Carolyn Dube here. Today I'm playing with my Venetian stencil from Stencil Girl Products. This stencil can be used just as it is, so you get these 3 great buildings inspired by one of my trips to Venice, or you can get it to do a bunch of other things. There's more here than just the straight stencil. You can pull parts out of it to get lots of different looks, and that's what I'm going to show you in today's video. So I decided to start on this page. I've got lots of color and things happening because this was made with a jelly plate and a stencil by Cecilia Swatton. I've cleaned brayers on it. There's just all sorts of stuff going on. So that's going to give me a rich background to start with. As I zoom in here, you can see some of the pattern that I've gotten from using one of Carrie McKnight Holbrook's polymer stamps on the jelly plate, and it just gives me a rich background. What I'm going to do now is take some heavy-bodied white acrylic paint, and I'm just going to use part of the stencil. And I'm using a cosmetic sponge, and I'm just pouncing up and down with this to get some heavy white paint there and part of the stencil. Well, I want more than just 3 there. I'm going to build some more rows of those circles. So I'm just going to kind of line those up again, and I'm going to stencil right on top. Didn't let anything dry. If I get some smudges or smears, I'm a-okay with that. And I'm coming back in with the cosmetic sponge. And you may say, well, Carolyn, you usually use a paintbrush. Why are you going with a cosmetic sponge? Well, there are 2 reasons why I'm using the cosmetic sponge. One is because I saw Mary Beth use it in her webinar, and that reminded me of how wonderful the cosmetic sponge is. And the other reason is because I'm working in such a small area and I want to hang on to details without having to mask anything. I can have a little more control over where that's going with the cosmetic sponge than I can with one of my big brushes. Well, here's what it looks like when I have 3 rows of these sort of ovally circles put together. The next thing that I want to do is put a really tall tower on this page. A tower that is much taller than what's on the stencil itself. And that's not a problem. I can build the tower that I want. So I've got the tower positioned where I want it, where I want the top of it. I get the top where I want it, and then I'm going to work my way down. Got it in position. I'm just holding it in place with my fingers, and in comes that cosmetic sponge, and I'm going to pounce along the tower, along the windows. Where those little little indentations stop, that's where I'm going to stop with the paint. Then I'm going to lift up the stencil, and I'm going to line up one window with the one below it. So you can see I moved it below it. Now I'm just going to add a little bit of paint and basically add another story to my tower. And I'm going to keep going through that whole process until the tower is as tall as I want it to be. And as long as I always start with the top of it, then it's just a matter of lining up those little windows, and I can make a tower that's 10 feet tall. Well, one tower by itself looks a little funny there. So I'm going to add some other towers to this. And I'm going to vary the height of the towers. And while I'm building my towers here, I'm going to throw in a plug for my YouTube channel. Would love if you'd subscribe so that you don't miss out on any of my videos. And another reason why I'm liking the cosmetic sponge today is because it's a lot less to clean up, and I love having less to clean up. I know you're going to be shocked by this. I wanted to add more color to it. So I put down some acrylic paint there, and look, my white paint wasn't even dry all the way, and I'm smearing it around too, and guess what? Doesn't matter. And what I'm going to do then is just create another field of color on there. I was using a catalyst blade to do that, by the way. And now I'm just going to put down some clip art of an old map that I've got here. I am going to adhere it with a little bit of gel medium. Same blade. I love using the mini blades because I can just switch between paint, gel medium without having to spend a lot of time cleaning or washing anything out. Well, now I'm going to create a line using one of the buildings. And for this one, I wanted to bring in a different color, so I grabbed some turquoise paint, and I'm just going to use a sort of warehousey looking building part of the stencil. And just like what I did with the tower, I'm going to line up parts of it to continue it on as long as I want. I could leave it just like that, or I can make it stretch the rest of the way across the page. So I'm going to line up the little windows and stencil away with it, making it as long as I want. I could stop there, but I think I want it to go all the way across the page, so I'm going to add a 3rd stenciling to it. By the way, I'm not letting anything dry in between this, and if I get a little smudges and smears, doesn't bother me. The line wasn't thick enough for me, so what I'm going to do is just stack another strip of these buildings going across to widen this up to give it a little more impact. I'm going to use the dome just to get a little bit of color and shape over on that side. There are lots of pieces that you can pull out in this stencil to use. Well, you know, I got the domes over there and I didn't really like how my towers looked in white. They didn't stand out the way I wanted. So not a problem. That's just an oops, an outstanding opportunity that presented suddenly. All I'm going to do then is go back over it with the color that I wanted. So adding some of that turquoise tealy color, I decided to put that one on it. After seeing the first one on there, I realized, yeah, that's really what I need to do. And so I went back over the other two. If there's a little bit of white peeking out here and there, not a big deal. That just adds some definition to it automatically. Add some layers, add some depth. If I do any inconsistent stenciling as I'm going through this, the beauty is I just put the stencil back on top of it and fix anything that I don't like that part. Well, I had this photograph, so I decided I'd put that on there. It seemed to just fit. It called to me. Little gel medium on the bottom, stick it down, little gel medium on the top. Decided I wanted to bring out the Stabilo pencil and add a little outline here, so I started tracing around the ovally circly things, and yeah, as soon as I did this, I kind of went, oops. And it wasn't quite what I was expecting. So out comes the paintbrush and I start putting paint in the middle and oops, the paint is picking up some of the black that's in the Stabilo pencil, giving me a different look than I expected. And I realize I really like that variation. And as long as I have the pencil out, I might as well start drawing around on other parts of the page and see where that goes. What's the worst thing that happens, right? If it's not the way I expect, I just call it an oops and add something more to it. And this word just kind of summed up how I was feeling as I made this page. And now I start the fiddling phase, adding little bits here and there. Do I add a little bit here? Do I add a little bit there? I put on the paint, I take off the paint, I try this, I try that. It's really just about fiddling. And sometimes the fiddles work out really well. And sometimes the fiddles, yeah, they're just a big oops. But it's a part of what I do. And while I'm in this fiddle phase, I want to say thank you to all the people that help make this possible. And that's you. Every time somebody watches one of my videos, comments on my blog, shares what I'm doing somewhere like Google Plus or Facebook or Pinterest or Twitter, all those things inspire me, encourage me, and motivate me to a level I don't know how to express in words. It really does mean so much to me when people take the time to reach out. So thank you so much for making this possible and being a part of this colorful journey.